Blind Justice presents a hero and a city with secrets hidden by the cloak of night. What's Done in the Dark, the audio drama.
The city hummed around them. Cars honked, music blared. Christian and Daniel stood frozen. Andrew's words echoed in their ears.
You think you're the only special one out there?
Andrew sneered. Christian's jaw tightened.
Who does this guy think he is?
He muttered to Daniel. Daniel's hand tightened on his wheelchair. His eyes darted to Andrew. Something felt off. Andrew smirked.
Let me show you.
A strange energy crackled around Andrew. Daniel's device started to buzz. The needle swung wildly. This was different. Christian whispered, his eyes glued to the device. Andrew closed his eyes. He inhaled slowly. The air grew cold. Daniel shivered. Andrew's fist clenched. Ice crept up his arm. It encased his hand, sharp and menacing. A gasp rippled through the crowd. He knelt. Ice spread from his touch. The pavement frosted over. The ground groaned. People screamed. Panic surged. Andrew looked up. A chilling smile spread across his face. Ice formed beneath his feet, transforming into skates. He glided effortlessly across the frozen street.
Let's see how fast you are without your wheels.
He taunted, his eyes fixed on Daniel.
And you without your precious speed.
He turned to Christian. Fear pulsed through Christian. He had never seen this level of power before. Ice now covered the street. It stretched outwards, a shimmering, deadly arena. Daniel's eyes darted around. He was trapped. His wheels spun uselessly on the ice. Andrew circled them, gliding on his ice skates. His laughter echoed in the frozen air. He was enjoying this.
Ice versus speed.
Andrew struck. Ice shards shot towards Christian.
Whoa.
He dodged, a blur of motion. The shards shattered against a building, leaving spiderweb cracks in their wake. Christian pushed his speed to the limit. He darted forward, a red and blue streak against the white ice. But Andrew was ready. He raised his hand. An ice wall slammed upwards, blocking Christian's path. The impact knocked Christian off balance.
Oh no!
Daniel watched, his heart pounding. He had to do something, but what? Andrew turned his attention to Daniel. He glided closer, a predatory gleam in his eyes.
Don't worry, you're next.
That's when Daniel noticed it. A small metallic device. It was implanted on the back of Andrew's neck. Could this be the source of Andrew's powers? Or even the cause of his aggression? Daniel's mind raced. He had to get closer. Christian, momentarily stunned, turned to see what Daniel was talking about. He saw it too. A plan began to form in his mind. Christian, the device, on his neck. Christian nodded. He didn't know if this would work, but they were out of options. This was their only shot. Distract him. Just get me close enough. Christian launched himself at Andrew. He moved like a phantom, a blur of motion against the blinding white of the ice. Andrew, momentarily surprised, turned to face his attacker. Ice shards flew. Christian danced between them, his speed his shield. He couldn't let up, not for a second. Andrew was powerful, fueled by a force Christian didn't understand. Daniel watched, his heart pounding against his ribs. He had to get closer. He adjusted his position, maneuvering his wheelchair subtly towards the oblivious Andrew. This was their chance, a small window of opportunity in a battle that seemed unwinnable. The weight of their hope pressed down on him. This is our chance. Andrew roared in frustration. This speedster was like a fly, buzzing around him, impossible to catch. He slammed his fists onto the ice, sending fissures racing towards Christian. The ground split. Christian leaped, narrowly avoiding the gaping chasm that opened beneath him. He landed precariously on the edge, the ice groaning under his weight.
Almost there.
Daniel held his breath. He was close now, close enough. He reached into his pocket, his fingers closing around the small electronic device he hoped would be the key to ending this. Fear coiled in his stomach. What if it didn't work? What if Andrew was too strong, even without the device? Christian stumbled. He couldn't keep this up forever. Andrew was relentless, his attacks growing more powerful by the second.
Give up. You can't win.
But Christian had never been one to back down from a challenge, especially when the stakes were this high. He had to buy Daniel more time.
Come on, Christian. Just a little longer.
He met Andrew's gaze, a spark of defiance in his eyes.
We'll see about that.
He shot back, his voice unwavering despite his fatigue. He launched himself forward again, a red and blue blur against the white, buying Daniel those precious few seconds he needed. Daniel saw his chance. As Andrew turned his attention back to Christian, Daniel extended his arm, his device pointed at the back of Andrew's neck. He pressed the button. A silent pulse of energy shot out, invisible to the naked eye. It struck the device on Andrew's neck.
Come on, work.
For a moment, nothing happened. Then Andrew froze. His eyes widened, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. The ice around them shuddered.
What?
Andrew began, his voice raspy, as if he were waking from a dream. Daniel held his breath. Had it worked? The ice groaned, cracks spiderwebbed across its surface. Andrew stumbled, his eyes wide with confusion. The icy shell around his hand shattered, falling away like broken glass. The air, once frigid and heavy, began to warm. The frozen cityscape slowly thawed, water dripping from buildings, cars, and the bare branches of trees. The scent of wet asphalt filled the air, replacing the biting chill.
Andrew, are you all right?
Christian slowed to a stop, his chest heaving. He watched Andrew carefully, a mixture of caution and curiosity in his eyes. What had happened to the arrogant, ice-wielding attacker? Daniel wheeled closer to Andrew, his device still clutched in his hand. Andrew blinked, his gaze unfocused. He looked around at the melting cityscape, at Christian and Daniel, his brow furrowed in confusion.
What happened?
We think that device on your neck.
Christian began, gesturing towards Andrew's neck. Andrew reached back, his fingers brushing against the small metallic device implanted there. He frowned.
I don't remember this.
Andrew's voice was laced with uncertainty. Daniel exchanged a look with Christian. Something wasn't right. Andrew's confusion seemed genuine. Could he have been controlled? But by who and why?
What's the last thing you remember?
Daniel asked, his voice gentle.
The mayor. I remember being called to his office.
Andrew closed his eyes, trying to grasp at fleeting memories. Images flashed before his mind's eye. A bustling office, the stern face of Mayor Rashad, a feeling of unease.
The mayor.
Meanwhile, miles away in a luxurious penthouse overlooking the city, Mayor Rashad paced back and forth, his phone pressed to his ear. His face, usually calm and collected, was a mask of frustration.
What do you mean he resisted? The device should have ensured his compliance.
He listened impatiently as the voice on the other end of the line spoke, relaying the news of Andrew's unexpected resistance and the subsequent failure of their plan. Dominic struggled with his grocery bags, juggling them precariously as he fumbled for his keys. Nugget, his faithful German shepherd, whined softly at his side, eager to be relieved of his leash. As Dominic finally managed to unlock his apartment door, he heard the door across the hall open.
Need a hand with those?
Dominic looked up, startled.
Nonsense. Let me help you with those.
The man stepped forward and took a few of the heavier bags from Dominic, his touch gentle but firm. Nugget, sensing no ill intent, padded forward and licked the man's hand enthusiastically.
I'm Kevin. It's a pleasure meeting you. Say, Dominic, I was wondering, would you maybe like to grab some coffee sometime? Or maybe dinner?
Dominic's heart skipped a beat. He had never been asked out on a date before, not since losing his sight. He smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his face.
It's nice to meet you both.
Silence descended. The only sound was the drip, drip, drip of melting ice. Andrew stood frozen, his face pale. Christian and Daniel exchanged a wary glance.
The mayor's office?
Andrew nodded slowly, his eyes distant.
That's the last thing I remember, being summoned there.
The device on Andrew's neck, now dull and lifeless, seemed to mock them. What had it done to him? Who was this Andrew standing before them?
Do you remember anything else? Anything at all? It's all blurry, like a dream I can't quite grasp.
Christian felt a surge of sympathy for Andrew. He'd been used, controlled by some unknown force, but who? And why?
We need answers. We need to find out what's going on.
Daniel nodded, his gaze fixed on the device on Andrew's neck. This was just the tip of the iceberg. Something sinister was brewing, and they were caught in the middle. Dinner? Dominic echoed, a smile playing on his lips.
Or coffee, if you prefer. I'm just looking for an excuse to get to know you better.
Nugget, as if sensing the positive shift in the air, wagged his tail enthusiastically, bumping his head against Kevin's leg. Dominic's heart pounded a steady rhythm against his ribs. He hadn't felt this nervous, this alive in a long time. Dinner sounds lovely. Kevin's smile widened, his eyes crinkling at the corners.
Great. How about Friday night? I know this fantastic Italian place down the street.
As Kevin rattled off the details, Dominic found himself captivated. It wasn't just Kevin's kindness or his easy charm, it was the way he made Dominic feel seen, valued, desired. The events of the day, the ice, the fight, the chilling discovery of Andrew's control all faded into the background. For the first time in a long time, Dominic allowed himself to hope, to believe that maybe, just maybe, a brighter future awaited him, hand in hand with the man standing before him.
The device was foolproof. Explain again. How did he break free?
It's like something interfered with the signal. I don't know, sir. The readings were off the charts.
Find out what happened. And Kenny?
Yes, sir.
No more setbacks. Time is of the essence.
Rashad ended the call with a curt snap of his phone. He stared out the panoramic window, his gaze cold and calculating. The city sprawled beneath him, a tapestry of twinkling lights and bustling activity. It was his city, or at least it would be. His thoughts drifted to Ruth's daughters, those two unsuspecting girls. Their power, raw and untrained, held such promise. With the right guidance, the right persuasion, they could be formidable assets. A cruel smile played on his lips. Ruth, in her misguided attempt to shield her daughters, had only delayed the inevitable. They would come to embrace their destinies, willingly or otherwise. Rashad picked up a framed photograph from his desk. It showed a younger, happier Rashad, his arm around a beautiful woman with kind eyes and a warm smile.
Soon, my love. Soon everything will be different. This city will be ours, our legacy.
Kenny's voice, laced with anxiety, echoed through the phone once more.
The girls, sir, their training is progressing well. The oldest one's telekinesis is becoming remarkably precise, and the youngest one's ability to manipulate fire is, well, it's dazzling, to say the least.
Rashad felt a surge of satisfaction. Everything was falling into place.
Excellent. But we need to accelerate the process, Kenny. Time is not on our side.
He could sense Kenny's hesitation on the other end of the line.
Sir, are you sure? Rushing things could be unpredictable.
Unpredictability is a luxury we cannot afford. Do I make myself clear, Kenny?
Crystal, sir.
The line went dead. Rashad stared at the phone in his hand, his expression a mask of steely determination. The game was afoot, and he was playing to win, no matter the cost. Friday arrived, a beacon of hope in Dominic's otherwise predictable week. He paced his small apartment, his nerves buzzing like a swarm of anxious bees. Nugget, sensing his master's unease, nudged his hand, offering a low whine of comfort. "It's just dinner, boy, just dinner." But it wasn't just dinner. Not really. It was a chance encounter that had blossomed into something akin to hope. Kevin, with his easy smile and genuine interest, had awakened a part of Dominic that he thought had been lost forever. The doorbell rang, a shrill sound that echoed in the silence of the apartment. Dominic's breath hitched. This was it. "Come on, boy, let's go meet our destiny." Nugget barked, a happy, enthusiastic sound, and followed Dominic to the door. As Dominic opened the door, a wave of cologne, something spicy and warm, washed over him.
Ready?
Dominic, heart pounding a hopeful rhythm, smiled back. "Ready?" As Dominic and Kevin walked away from the apartment building, hand in hand, the city lights seemed to twinkle with a newfound brilliance. But in the heart of the metropolis, a darkness festered. Mayor Rashad sat alone in his penthouse, the city lights painting his face in an eerie, flickering glow. His gaze was fixed on a chessboard, the pieces arranged in a complex, strategic formation. His phone buzzed, a jarring sound that broke the spell. It was Kenny. Rashad answered with a curt,
Report.
The device is deactivated, sir. No sign of tampering. It's as if it just stopped working.
Rashad's eyes narrowed. This was unexpected, unacceptable.
Double the dosage. Kenny,
Yes, sir.
no more mistakes.
He ended the call, the Black King still clutched in his hand. The city, a tapestry of light and shadow, stretched out before him. He would control it all. He would be king,